This time on Watchers of Tomorrow, how to respect Klingons.
Hello, welcome to Watchers of Tomorrow, the sci-fi review and critique show that needs to be perfect before it reports to a superior. That wasn't great, but I'm tired today.
Yeah,
we
yes.
think of things on the fly. I'm Gepwin, and I'm joined as always by my friend and co-host Dr. Izix.
Hi.
And this is the Klingon episode. It is the one.
Yes, there's not going to be any other Klingon episodes. This is maximum Klingon.
Yeah, this is the maximum amount of Klingon.
Yes.
Oops, all Klingons. Previously, we had Klingons show up for an episode, and they've been mentioned, but this is here is Klingons, here's what we're doing with Klingons in Next Generation, here's how Klingons work now, behold the Klingon.
Yes, so it's not about, things are different now, and we're not really going to go into too many details why, other than these guys are like rebels or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to actually show you what the Klingons are like these days. And, you can sort of maybe compare and contrast a little bit to classic series, but, to a certain degree, perhaps they've always been like this, because we just didn't get a whole lot of exposure about life as a Klingon up until this point.
So this is the episode A Matter of Honor, where Riker goes to do Klingon things with Klingons.
Yes. And, Worf's in this one too, but he's mostly just frustrated.
Yeah. He's a sort of a frustrated side character.
Yeah. Overall, I kind of like this one. There's some interesting stuff going on, and having sort of, Riker in a culture shock sort of situation is kind of nice to sort of see how he adapts, and overall he does that pretty well, I'd say. And also how another character tries to adapt to a new culture situation and how they kind of fail totally on it. So compare and contrast.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing's really fun. I do enjoy this episode for being fun.
Mm-hmm.
This episode was written by Burton Armus, who previously wrote Outrageous Okana and did uncredited work for other episodes like The Icarus Factor. He was previously a NYPD detective before doing TV and stuff, so much following in the whole Gene Roddenberry vein of being a cop and then writing Star Trek.
So I guess that explains why he was a co-executive producer for Dragnet for a while. So
yeah, he did advising on stuff like Kojak and Dragnet, and wrote for Airwolf and Knight Rider, which are the same show, just one is a car and one is a helicopter.
It's also involved in Chips, which I guess is also apt given the cop background.
We also have story credits for Wanda Height and Gregory Armos, but they don't even have links on Wikipedia. Not even like the red stuff that's like, this page doesn't exist. They aren't even links at all.
Yeah. Wanda and Gregory here, this is the only thing they apparently worked on. So, anywhere, as far as I've been able to find as well. So I guess they just knew Burton Armus and hey, we got some ideas here. And he's like, oh, okay, Klingons, that's kind of cool.
You get some credit. Good job.
Yeah. You exist somewhere in credit, and then, maybe you don't actually exist beyond that.
So there are way too many guest stars. There's an entire extra ship on this episode. I bet this is where all of the budget for season 2 went full on. There's an entire other set and an entire other cast.
Well, that and maybe a couple things later. Anyway, but a lot was invested in this episode, and we sort of have the to a certain degree a recreation, but also sort of a innovation of what we've seen previously of the Klingon bird of prey sort of thing in the Star Trek movies, and it's sort of a updated sort of version of all that.
So as far as guest stars, I'm only going to mention the main people because there's just way too many people. This whole thing. So we've got John Putsch playing Mendon. He previously played Marduk in the episode Coming of Age, and he was brought back because they had the makeup and they needed another benzite. And they were like, let's just make them all look the same, and then we can just reuse the same makeup. This was expensive.
Yes, because it is, sort of a unusual sort of a style. It's like sort of a catfish sort of thing going on.
Yeah.
And this little face mask nebulizer, I think. And yeah, so, this guy's been in a bunch of stuff. We mentioned that previously, but so we can move on.
And then we have Christopher Collins as Captain Kargan. He plays 4 different Star Trek characters. He was in Sumerian Snare. He's 2 random dudes in DS9. He's around a lot.
Yes. So, yeah, we'll see him again. Don't worry.
And also, he can't talk through his Klingon teeth, which leads his entire performance sounds like, this is your second officer.
Yeah. He sounds vaguely drunk.
I mean, it fits the character.
Yeah.
I think it's great for the character. It's just an interesting to force an acting decision like that.
Just make it work. You're a Klingon. You're not going to be able to speak English well anyway. So.
And then finally, for our purposes, we've got Brian Thompson as Klang.
Mm-hmm. He's huge.
Yeah, he is. You will recognize this dude if you see him. He's got one of those faces like, oh yeah, that guy, that jawline.
Yes.
He got to start acting with a very small part in Terminator, which is a very nice way to start your acting career.
Indeed.
He is best known as the alien bounty hunter in the X-Files, and he will go on to play 4 additional Star Trek characters, random aliens, a Jem'Hadar in DS9, and a Klingon in Generations, and a random Romulan in Enterprise. He is just around.
Yeah, in the 4th season of Enterprise, there's a bit of a plot involving Romulans, and he's like the Romulan guy in charge of that. Even though the heroes of the story don't actually ever meet him, he's
just there. Because otherwise, it would break continuity. It wouldn't make any sense for them to have Romulans in Enterprise, because the Romulan War would have happened years before that, and they never saw each other.
But in terms of Enterprise, the entire Romulan War is supposed to take place between the last episode and the episode before it of the series. So,
Yeah. But if you look him up to recognize the actor, you'll instantly recognize him, but also the scene that he's in Terminator is being punched in the stomach by a naked Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yes. He's one of those punks there.
So there's just pictures of him being punched by naked Arnold.
Well, this is awkward. Now, he was technically in one thing before this, Hardcastle and McCormick, but that only ends up reminding me of Wizard People, dear reader, and that's a whole different thing.
It sounds like a beer. Sounds like you go to a bar and order a Hardcastle and McCormick.
This will be either a New England sort of thing, or a Northern England thing, maybe, where it's all right, well, this is kind of like a local sort of thing, and no one outside this area knows about it, so enjoy.
Mm-hmm. So that's everybody for our purposes. You're going to hear me mention other people, but I guess they're not important in my head.
Vecma and random Klingon crewman and the Ops ensign.
Yeah. All those dudes. So, the Enterprise and its crew are engaging in an officer exchange program. They're taking other officers from the Federation and then allied species, and they're serving on different ships for a period of time so they can learn different ways of doing things.
Mm-hmm. So everyone learns.
The officer currently assigned to the Enterprise is Mendon, who Wesley very understandably mistakes for his friend Marduk, because, as Mendon explains, they all look exactly the same.
Because they're from the same, geostructure, was it?
Yeah. They actually have the same geostructure.
Yeah, it's I'm not sure how that affects your biology specifically, but there's maybe a story there that
we're on the same rocks.
Yeah. Yeah. Wait, so you're catfish people, but you grow out of rocks?
Yeah.
What?
I do think it's an interesting one, because it's canonically in the thing. No, Wesley's not being racist. We do all look the same.
Yeah, this is just deal with it, kid.
We look the same to us too.
It's like, well, how do you tell each other apart? Well, we just do.
As the crew gets situated, Picard calls Riker to the target range, which is a massive black room with little colored lights everywhere. I do think it's interesting that they have, like, a targeting range. They say, come to the targeting range. And then, like, in that awful scene in Star Trek Generations, they have the stellar cartography room, which is a massive map room. But, like,
Yes.
you have, like, 6 holodecks on this ship that could do any of this.
Yes. But we're going to have a special room for just this.
Yeah, we have a massive... They have too much space on this ship, is the thing.
Yes. Yeah, it's a rather large building in space.
Yeah.
And in terms of, like, comparing it to, like, an aircraft carrier, the Enterprise is mostly empty while the aircraft carriers are, like, packed. So
Yeah. I mean, I saw a thing a while back where, like, the crew of the Enterprise is, like, I'd have to look it up, but it's a few hundred people.
I think it's just over 1,000 total.
Okay,
in terms
so just around 1,000 people-ish. But, like, a modern aircraft carrier, which is smaller than this, can hold, like, 2,000 crew members.
Yes.
So this ship is mostly empty space.
Certain amounts of it is taken up by machinery or, crew quarters that are, like, super luxurious and are basically apartments.
Yeah.
But,
and do you know what the rent would be on one of those crew quarters in Manhattan?
Guessing pretty absurd.
I would say at least $3,000 a month.
Yo.
Maybe 4, depending on the area.
They don't even have a proper kitchen in there, just a replicator.
So while they're shooting dots with phasers, they talk about the exchange program. Picard mentions that it's been suggested that an Enterprise officer take part and that there's a Klingon ship nearby. And Riker volunteers because, as far as he knows, no human has ever served with Klingons before. And, he does this kind of thing.
Yeah, he wants to, be a first sort of person and, also look good on the resume. And I guess the alternative is we send Wesley over there and then, don't have Wesley anymore.
Yeah, that'd be great. Wesley surfing on a Klingon ship. He learns to stand up for himself.
I guess that would be one way to do it. Either that or he dies.
Yeah. So Worf, being the Klingon that Riker knows, is giving him a primer on life on a Klingon ship. Like how if the captain is weak, you kill him. And if you're weak, the second officer's going to kill you. That's how it works.
So, don't be weak. Also, be honorable and stuff.
And then also Mendan wanders around vaguely going, yes, that could be better.
Mm-hmm. This is a very unique way you have laid out the console here, but maybe there's a couple things that could be improved, by my theory.
Yeah.
Yes. My.
So Riker goes and has a feast in 10 Forward. Apparently it's a tradition to have a feast before a transfer. And Pulaski joins him, choosing to not eat any of the Klingon food, which, like, most of it is octopus, and there's a beef kidney. I've eaten almost everything on this table.
And apparently there was, like, falafel and, like, sushi and all kind of tied up in there and just, sort of presented in a kind of vaguely alienist way.
Yeah, they just put it on the table in slightly odd configurations, but, like, I have had 90% of this. It's pretty good food, really.
So, Jonathan Frakes got to have an interesting dinner. It's part of his work here.
It looks a lot better than that blue squid that they gave them in the movies.
Yeah.
I remember there was an article talking about the, like, sort of implicit racism that they have in the alien food on Star Trek, because especially when they needed a lot of stuff for, like, Voyager, because they're always hanging out in the mess hall with, all of the alien food. Mm-hmm. The prop guy would mostly just go to the Asian market and buy fruit. And, like, that's not weird alien fruit. That's staple diet food in another country.
Yeah, just the American audiences aren't used to it, and that's good enough for us. Are you going to, like, paint it a weird color? No!
But Riker has a great time. He's like, look at all this cool food I get to eat.
a heart of Targ and Gawk and other stuff.
Yeah. Picard joins them and very politely asks some questions about the food. Like, let's not touch that. Riker's the only fun one on this entire ship.
Yeah. I think Data tries to be a fun one, but, he still kind of doesn't have the right connection going on here. And I guess Pulaski also tries to be a fun one at times, but not really right now.
Yeah, they're not going to eat the stuff. Like, why are humans so picky in the future? Huh? You know the reason that humans are picky? Well, Americans specifically, we're the picky eaters of the world.
Yeah.
The reason that American food is so characteristically bland and uninteresting is because they told us during the Great Depression that spices were going to cause you to turn to the devil.
Whoops. That's a little absurd.
Yeah, that was the whole thing. No spicy food because it would encourage devil worship, and all of the stuff that they gave people for food aid during the Depression was like the most simple, basic bullshit. Because they're like, if we give people good food, then they'll not want to work anymore.
Dun, dun, dun. And we can't have that. Remember, you have to suffer sufficiently in order to be, a godly worker here. So,
yeah. Even though at the time, America was just, filled with immigrants who came from places with good, really cheap, simple food cultures.
Yes.
You ask anyone from southern Italy to cook a meal with 3 basic ingredients and you'll get something that you pay $40 for in a restaurant.
Yeah. And I guess one of the side effects is that sort of pricing now. Simple stuff that is, it's fairly easy to make now is seen as a delicacy, and it's a little absurd.
I mean, have you heard of white sauce? It was apparently something that they did a lot during the Depression, which was boiled flour with boiled noodles and carrots.
Huh. Now, I personally have an issue with carrots, but yeah.
And if you put pepper in it, you're going to hell.
You see the hotness you feel? That's the devil.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, humans should be over their weird food pickiness by the time they're engaging with literal alien cuisine, is my point. But
yes.
Apparently not.
But, the Federation is the United States, so it inherits all the quirks along with.
So Worf gives Riker an emergency transponder so they can beam him back aboard if necessary. The Klingons arrive. Riker's sent on board.
Gepwin, the good news about the transponder there, it can be used as a suppository.
It does look it. So the Klingons arrive. Riker's sent on board, and Mendon scans the ship and finds something. But he doesn't report it. He starts analyzing it. This will become important at a later time.
Got some sort of unknown sample here. Quick, to the experimental chamber and get Gordon Freeman in here to laser it or something.
Yeah. So after Riker leaves, Mendon tries to talk to Picard about improvements, but he's skipping several steps in the chain of command. Mm-hmm. He should report to Worf, who's like, "You can give me a report later, and I hate you."
Yes. It's like, you're obviously trying to go over my head, and what? Just talk to me, okay?
On the Klingon ship, which is the Pak, spelled with a GH, you really get that sound in there. Yeah.
A Pak on both your houses.
So Riker gets examined by the tactical officer who's never seen a human before. He is introduced to Captain Kargan, and Kargan interrogates Riker about his loyalty. He wants to know if he would help them fight the Federation if it came to it. And he passes essentially by being willing to die. Yeah. It's very important to Klingons.
Yeah, it's sometimes people, including myself, describe the Klingon sort of way of life on these ships as sort of a death cult here. And it's a little obvious here on this particular sort of moment. Yeah. I'm willing to die for you. It's all good. All right, I guess that's good enough.
And then we're introduced to the second officer, and I don't know why. Maybe because he's got a weirdly simple name for a Klingon. Mm-hmm. Every time the captain introduces him, it's very funny to me. This is your second officer, Commander Klang.
Klang.
The second officer, Klang, does not believe Riker can handle being on a Klingon ship. And Riker goes, "Captain, what should I do?" He says, "Oh, it's your first command decision." And then he punches Klang out.
It's like, Kling is, huge and also like on an upper level of the bridge, just like a step up.
Yeah.
So, Riker's like, well, I can't punch him, but maybe here to the stomach. And then I flip you over. There we go.
Well, he does the Federation's super signature double fist punch.
Yes. Just copying Kirk.
So Worf detects an unknown substance on the skin of the ship. Some sort of subatomic bacteria. How? What?
It's space science. It doesn't make sense.
Bacteria are generally, made of atoms.
Yes.
But okay.
So it's like made out of neutrons and protons, but it's not an atom. It's a bacteria somehow. So it's like semi-degenerate neutron star material that is alive and eating the ship, I guess.
Yeah, it's feeding on some components of the hull. Mendon goes, oh yeah, I saw that earlier. It was on the Pach. And they all go like, did you not tell it? What? Why did you not say this, dude? This could have been important. He goes, well, on a Benzite ship, it would have been inefficient for me to not give a full report to know what to do and etc. And they're like, okay, but it's our fault for not telling you how things work, but like you've put the entire ship in danger, so good job.
So be more upfront about the things you encounter here going forward, and maybe we won't have to like put you in a room by yourself for the rest of the time you're here.
But also keep doing what you're doing, because we need to know what this is.
Yeah. So you're probably good at analysis. So get back to doing that. But yeah, be more upfront here. Come on.
So Riker's being observed by the Klingons in the mess because they're like, I've had this happen. Like if you go out to eat with someone who's from a different food culture of you, like they keep handing you stuff. You go like, eat that. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, cool. I love this. This is my favorite. This is my absolute favorite. I used to have a friend who would take us to Korean restaurants. It's like, try that. It's like, try that. Try that. It's like, yes, I will take all of the weird food. Thank you.
I had a similar experience, I suppose. Years ago, I was in a dorm situation with a couple fellows from India. And they're like, all right, so, we're all kind of eating dinner here. It's like, yeah, you should try some of this. I'm like, I'm not sure. And like, all right, I give it a try. And I didn't like it because, well, there's a lot of American foods I don't like, in fact. So I'm, a bit on the outlier in terms of, tastes here. And a couple other things. And then it's like, all right, so this, strange tasting bread here seems pretty good. So I eat like half it and I realize, oh, the spicy side is the aftertaste. Uh-oh. I still enjoyed it, but, like for the hour afterwards, like, my mouth is on fire.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, I grew up in Arizona, so that sounds normal.
Yeah.
So he's in the mess hall. Everyone's giving him weird food. They give him gok, and he goes like, that's gok, but I think it's moving. It's like, yeah, you eat it alive, dude.
Yeah, it's best that way.
And then two female Klingons start flirting with him, and he, like, flirts back to show bravado. And one of them is like, I will be back for you. It's like, is she serious? It's like, yeah. They want to know if you die.
Good luck. And, Riker is kind of a player. So, if he gets out through this situation, all right, he'll be A-okay in terms of,
And 9 months later, you get Belanotaurus.
Yes. Whoops.
Klang asks if Riker is a typical human because he has a sense of humor, which they didn't expect.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, well, we both have parents, which is a weird... Why is this everyone's go-to? For we have something in common. Everybody's got parents. And then the one budding species in the corner is like, oh.
They don't generally show such species, but... I do recall the mention of a character that was never shown on Deep Space Nine. It's like, oh yeah, and Ensign so and so is budding this week, so they're out, and it's like, oh, tell them congratulations. Yeah, they're they're now expecting, and
Yeah, Deep Space Nine loved doing that. It's like, here's a really cool, interesting sci-fi thing that we've talked about. Will we see it? No.
Because we don't got the budget because we're not focusing on that character.
Yeah.
Like,
No, we're just going to mention it.
yeah, I would have loved to see the one guy with like the see-through skull thing going on.
So this gets everybody talking about their fathers. The other Klingons' fathers died in battle, but Klang gets all contemplative and goes like, "My father is still alive and was not allowed to die. Now he just waits to die of illness like a useless lump."
So this sounds like some dishonor stuff going on here.
Yeah.
Maybe let's not dwell on it.
So Riker's a bit shocked, but Klingons don't express feelings the way humans do. We wouldn't know how. And then Riker goes, "Well, I didn't know how to eat gok yesterday, so we're learning. Everyone's learning. You can be sad about your father. I will fix your daddy issues."
So, would you like to like go and hang out with your dad sometime?
We have a sport. It's called baseball.
Yeah.
It's like hitting a head with a bat.
No, when we do run into Riker's dad later, they have a different sport they get up to.
I know. He's like, "Oh, my father's great," except for in 3 episodes when we realize that my father is an asshole.
Yep. But maybe Riker's in denial about that, or lying.
So Mendon's identified the bacteria feeding on the hull. It's the same one that's on the Klingon ship, but also the Klingon ship is made of more of whatever it's eating. So the Klingon ship is in a significant amount of danger.
Mm-hmm. So, they might like fly apart randomly soon. So we should probably like warn them.
So Picard orders them to send a warning to the POG and to intercept them, but they're on undesignated maneuvers, so they don't know where they are.
So they are on maneuvers. Sorry, just channeling some idiots in there. Anyway.
Yeah. I have invented a maneuver.
Oh, what is it, Dr. Heimlich?
So on the POC, Kargan calls Riker in to look at a hole in the ship. There's some bacterium opening a hole in the hull. They've got about 8 hours until the ship flies apart at the seams.
So maybe we should, cut off that section and, replace it.
Like, we don't have spare parts on this ship. That would be stupid. It would leave less room for guns.
Well, I really hope then you don't get lost to the far side of the galaxy on a long duration mission trying to get home then. Because then you wouldn't be able to have instant repairs of everything.
Or do anything.
Yeah.
But also, the Enterprise focused a scanning beam on that section of the ship for several minutes, so we must have been attacked.
Because a scanning beam is dangerous.
Yeah. So Kargan decides that they're going to attack the Enterprise in retaliation. Klang tries to speak up for Riker, but beating them is honorable, accepting something they wouldn't lie. I don't know. Maybe we should believe it was a mistake, but then the Enterprise is like looking for them, and Kang's like, they're looking for us. They've come to finish the job.
Yeah, because that makes sense. Not just waiting to see if they just fly apart on their own.
Yeah. But arm torpedoes and wait for them to come into range. Haha.
Yeah. Also, none of this random attacking a Klingon, ship here makes any sense otherwise. So, there's also maybe that to think about.
Yeah, but this captain is just bloodthirsty and weird. So Riker tries to convince them that the Enterprise is here to help, but he demands that Riker tell them their tactical weaknesses. And he goes, "Nope, I'm not betraying my former ship, even if I have to fight them." And he goes, "That was a test. You passed. I would have killed you if you were a traitor."
Yeah, I guess being a reasonable person is a good thing then. All right.
So Mendon's figured out how to cleanse the bacteria from the hull, and they add that to their message. Klang reports that, but of course Kargan's like, "No, that's a trick. Everything's a trick. I'm very smart." Maybe
the captain here is realizing he's getting kind of up there in years and wants to go out in a blaze of glory.
So they're all prepared to attack. Riker goes, "Don't attack and don't decloak until you're within 40,000 kilometers," because it cuts down on their response time. And then he pulls out the transponder that Worf gave him and turns it on.
Yeah.
Kargan goes, "What is that? Give it to me." And Worf detects it, and they beam out Riker to the bridge as soon as they're within 40,000 kilometers.
Yeah. But instead of Riker, we get a surprise visitor instead.
Yeah, they get a very surprised-looking Klingon, who Worf immediately shoots because he was going to pull a weapon.
Yes. I've been betrayed.
Sometimes the transporter takes a while and they go like, hey, this seems off. They're carrying guns or something. This time, they don't notice that they're the wrong species.
Yes. It's like, well, I guess, with the cloaking device, you probably aren't able to sort of scan the specific target you're going for properly. So maybe there's, some excuse there, but still, like, once they're in the matter stream, you should be able to, like, pick up a few things.
Yeah. So everyone on the Klingon ship goes, what the hell, dude? And Riker goes, I have taken out the captain because he was acting irrationally, and now I'm in command.
Wow. Gotta follow my orders now. Let's go blow up some stuff.
Now lower the cloaking device and lock phasers on the Enterprise. So the Pak decloaks, and Captain Riker demands that the Enterprise surrender and that they repair their ship.
Oh, okay.
So Kargan gets sent back and is pissed. Riker gives back command and then stands there until Kargan hits him off of the bridge.
Like, you have done your duty, but also I have to reassert my command here, so punch.
And Klang goes, maybe you understand us better than I thought.
Like, well, either that or Riker was distracted or something like that for a few moments there, just didn't decide to leave.
So Picard's happy to have him back, even if he's got a giant black eye. And Riker lets Worf know that he's really glad the Klingons are on their side.
Yes. It's like, yeah, we've had an alliance for a bit here, and it's I'm glad I don't have to get punched by them a lot more in the future. Hopefully. ... All
right, so that's a matter of honor. What did we think?
Overall, I like this one. Fun to look at another culture, an alien culture, and there's maybe questions about how this sort of culture is developed like this, and how it sort of got to this, and what sort of aspects of Klingon sort of encourages it. But in terms of a first sort of exposure, we don't need all that, so we're just gonna have a fun little romp here.
Yeah, I mean, none of the cultures in this show make any sense at all. Yeah. Even a little bit. Even the Federation barely makes sense as a culture, as a cohesive entity that could exist in its own world.
Yes.
But, as a cool alien thing, as just some cool sci-fi stuff that doesn't necessarily have to make sense. Yeah, great. Yeah. This is great.
Yes. So Star Trek, more cool stuff like this, just in general, and you'll probably keep us happy. Hopefully.
This is one of my favorite episodes overall of this series. Like, I love this comedy, like fish out of water, but with Klingon stuff.
Yes.
I think this show overall really doesn't give Riker the amount of time to shine that he's entitled to.
Indeed. There's plenty of good stuff, with like, Picard and things like that and other characters. But a lot of the time, Riker kind of gets sort of pigeonholed into the, I'm here to carry out the captain's orders sort of stuff here. And some of that does come from, especially later in the series where he's like doing a lot of directing sort of stuff. And so he's not necessarily having the time to, be a center of the episode. But still, in terms of, the early stuff, it's, there's good stuff like this. And then there's stuff where he's kind of centered, like, what was it, Angel 1, where, he's sort of a main character focus there, but it's kind of a terrible episode, so it's like, maybe we don't want this kind of focus, but...
yeah, it's not great.
Yeah. But, good episodes plus Riker equals a good time.
Yeah, but Frakes is a really good actor. He doesn't get a lot of chance to show off. And Riker is one of the more interesting characters because he's got that, like, young, ambitious, I'm still excited about everything vibe going.
Yeah, and, some of the other characters is like, yeah, we're kind of just doing our job here, while Riker's like, I'm gonna go explore some weird culture stuff here, and that's kind of cool.
And I do really like the way that it shows the creativity and living in the spirit of your ideals. Because the whole thing, especially this particular episode, they have this cultural exchange program so everyone can understand each other better, which is very, very much like the spirit of the Federation. We're all sharing, we want to understand and better ourselves, and et cetera, et cetera. And on first glance, it's like, how is he going to get along on a Klingon ship at all, where they're killing each other for fun?
It's like, well, it's not quite like that, actually. Just kind of feels like it sometimes.
Yeah. But even when he's in a position to, like, he has to solve a problem with this crazy captain, and he doesn't want to kill the guy, so he comes up with a solution that still fits within this general spirit of their cultural values, but mixing in his own cultural values and still being able to pull it off without really ticking off anyone too badly.
Yeah, I guess, at that point, he's also kind of established that, like, yeah, I'm still going to be my own person, but I'm going to be willing to, bend and conform with, the general vibe of the ship, and, going to make my best sort of way forward, sort of combining the best aspects of both of these. So, and, the crew's like, kind of, it's like, yeah, it makes sense. All right, so we can actually get along with you. You're not going to be a stick in the mud. You're not going to be this stuffy Starfleet officer that we kind of, expect given, sort of how we've interacted generally as, two space empires in the past. So, we can get along with this, and we're interested to see how you take things. And, well, that's where he takes things.
It's also interesting since this is somehow not really a side of this kind of exploration thing that we get a lot in these series. Because one of their stated things that they say all the time is we're here to explore new life, find new stuff, learn about each other, explore space, see what's out there. And half the time, because they're supposed to be essentially modern American stand-in characters, a lot of the time when they encounter anything new or different, they'll go, ew.
We're now shocked, and now we have to be uncomfortable about the whole situation.
And I feel like that's one of the places where they don't use Riker to his full potential as a character, because Riker, as he's written in this, and he is a fairly consistent character throughout everything, that just don't give him a chance to use it much. Like, Riker is the guy who's really, really excited about all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, he's not just going on a cultural exchange thing to learn. He's going because no one's ever done it before. He's embracing all of the Klingon stuff. He beats up his second officer. He eats all their weird food. He probably had sex with that Klingon woman off screen because it's Riker.
Yeah. Maybe both of them, actually.
Yeah, possibly both. Like, that's definitely a thing that happened, and we all know it.
Oh. So the rest of the crew, you should, follow his example more.
I think that that's something that gets missed, because a lot of what this show does, especially given the, very strong 80s, 90s vibes of the whole thing, is this preaching tolerance idea. Like, we have tolerance for other cultures. But tolerance, as a lot of people recently have been critiquing, means that you tolerate someone. You deign to have them around, and you guess it's fine.
Yes.
This episode, especially since everyone likes the Klingons, and they're cool, and we can get behind the whole Klingon thing, this episode is one of the only ones that's truly showing a Federation character really celebrating another culture.
I guess the closest we get, elsewise, other than stuff that's Worf-centric, is actually Jadzia Dax, and half of those are Worf-centric still. So
yeah, and when we get to Jadzia, she's also celebrating the Klingon culture thing. The Klingons are the people you're allowed to celebrate, apparently.
Yeah, sure, they might have an empire based on a sort of feudalistic system that was prone to internal strife and backstabbing and all that sort of stuff. That in terms of the high level folks involved, tends to maybe not meet the ideals that they espouse. But there are elements here that actually do follow it.
Yeah, does this place make any sense at all as a place, as a culture that we could be allies with? Probably not even a little bit, but it's working out.
Yeah, we're allies with them, and we're just not going to think about, how they conquer random planets sometimes,
Yeah, well, the Federation, as I have critiqued many times, like fully gets in bed with fascists.
Yeah. It's like, why are we making friends with this? Because we need them to be on our side.
Yeah.
Okay. But then we're friends with the worst people in the galaxy. So how does this actually help us? Because they're going to help us fight the Romulans.
I will have more critiques of this much later on, but they have whole things of like this one little upstart empire is doing a full-on genocide on this planet. We'll take refugees.
Yeah, that's cool.
Good, great,
that's
cool.
all we're gonna do.
We'll put them in slums. We'll put them in tent cities for some reason.
And, that's all we can, let ourselves do because, prime directive. There we go.
Otherwise, we'd be interfering with something.
Yeah. And never mind that it's, an activity between two other empires and, that kind of, is not an internal affairs sort of thing here. But,
So overall, I think this episode's really light on anything else because it's mostly just being fun.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think as far as the spirit of the show goes, this one really exemplifies it a lot better than anything else.
Yes.
And this is something that they should do more. This is something that I really like in a few episodes of Lower Decks as well. Like, yes, these people are very highly trained military officers, and they are very good in a variety of situations and things, but this entire ship is supposed to be full of diplomats and scientists and people who are studying space. Like, this entire ship should be nothing but nerds.
Yep.
Like, every single situation they're in, they should be super giddy and excited to figure it out, because that's what you're supposed to be doing here. I understand for TV you need them to be like stoic explorer dudes, but getting to see them be like, I'm super excited because I get to go eat Klingon worms.
It's like, oh, heck yeah, I'm going to be doing some crazy stuff here, and we're going to see how this goes, and I'll have an interesting experience and a great memory for later down the line. Yeah.
I think it's kind of unfortunate that, like, I understand why they did it, because they like Picard's character as the, like, stoic diplomat dude.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, later on, when they bring in more and more of the Klingon stuff, wouldn't it make a lot more sense to have, like, Riker can full-on take over a Klingon ship and get every member of the crew to follow him into battle?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we should bring Riker to deal with the High Council.
Yes. It's like, Riker, you have some experience, like, and know how to sort of read the room, as it were, on a Klingon situation. So why are you kind of being sidelined in the later episodes? Well, there's sort of behind the scenes stuff, and also the writers wanted this sort of vibe, etc. But
because they knew if they let Riker in the room, he would have been emperor within a month.
It's like, but I wanted to be in charge of the High Council, says Gowron, and Riker's like, well, you still can be. I just get to be emperor.
No, he just meets Galor. It's like, I'm in charge of the High Council. It's like, oh, think again. I've stabbed you. But
you didn't issue a formal challenge. I did. You just were late for it.
Yeah. It's like, I just stabbed you in the foot. What you gonna do about it?
Yeah.
Huh? Like, Galron's unconscious, and I'm using him as a footstool. I'm in charge now.
Some people are like, this is very embarrassing, and others are like, heck yeah.
Yeah, everyone's like, well, there's a human in charge. It's like, are you going to confront him? Because I'm not.
Yeah, he's going to stab me if I do. I don't think it's worth it.
And somehow he's now married both of the Duras sisters and brought up about global peace.
I've united the Empire at last. Hooray. All right. Give me that sword of Kalis and we're good to go. So maybe maybe at some points, like Kling is like, reports back to the High Council. It's like, yeah, and if we ever run into that Riker guy again, try to like have him not be core involved in all the affairs of things here, because they might be too successful.
I mean, he probably just went back and issued a false report. And it's like, and this Riker dude, he just like ran away.
Yeah,
like a coward, like a human. You know how humans are.
Well, I can kind of see maybe the captain's report would be like that. Kargan's, but Kling's, completely different, and so maybe there's like a weird cultural sort of aspect that sort of grows out of that, where there's some Klingons that are like, well, maybe the humans aren't so bad, and others are like, they're cowardly, and we can totally beat them in a fight. So maybe we should do that sometime. And thus we have Riker to blame for the season and a half of the Klingons fighting everybody in DS9.
Well, they didn't cause an intergalactic incident,
yes.
Which is a plus. Sir, any of this.
Well, there are situations where Riker's style probably could, cause intergalactic incident, but some of the alien species that he would have been a problem for really only show up in Enterprise, so we're probably okay. Like those one guys that get upset when people like eat in their presence. It's like it's like a sexual act. What? How does that make sense?
Riker would have fully embraced it.
Like, all right, well, I'm going to start hitting on you now by eating this ice cream.
Yeah. So okay, I think we've written enough Riker fanfic for the day.
Riker, man of action.
No, I think that was most of what I had. This episode is pretty light on theming, aside from Klingons. Yeah.
Well, I guess I do have a quick note about humor in Star Trek that you mentioned in the who's who bit, that Burton Armus was also behind another bit of a comedy in Star Trek here.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and the previous episode, with Okana and all that, is sort of a one of those episodes where it's like the humor is bad.
Yeah.
But here the humor where it is both much lighter in terms of density, but also way better because it's sort of like, yes, here is Riker sort of showing his bravado, and the Klingons are like, oh yeah, humans do have a sense of humor. That's kind of cool. And the bits between Mendon and Worf, where Worf is like quietly seething, where it's like, yeah, I'm a Starfleet officer. I can't just randomly kill this guy for being a pain in the ass. So now you're going to report to me, and we're obviously not going to be friends, but I'm going to respect the chain of command like you should be.
Well, it's like if you just write the episode to be funny, instead of trying to make half the episode about the concept of humor.
Mm-hmm.
But it is kind of interesting to look at it with that, because like this does mean that if they'd had just focused more on Okana as a slightly comic side character, which he was, you could have made it a lot better, because this episode is essentially writing Riker as the lovable rogue character.
Indeed. So, maybe if you're going to have a lovable rogue, just make it Riker. You guys seem to know how to write him. So, yeah. So, I guess, overall, I do appreciate the humor here. And, as I said, it's much, lighter in density. But sometimes when you're trying to have a good chuckle, that's how you go for it. You can have, a mix of tense moments and humorous moments, and you can actually put together a pretty good episode as a result. Not everything has to be totally bleak or completely, farcical. You can have something that's a good mix of both. And I hope Star Trek going forward has more sort of a good mix like that. Some of the forces I do rather enjoy, particularly like the Magnificent Ferengi, but even that one, still has moments of, it's like, all right, so this is kind of an absurd situation, but the characters are trying to like, treat it as a serious situation and react accordingly. While some other farces where it's like, yeah, this is just beating dead jokes into the ground and awful things that are like, wasn't funny, but it's trying to pretend it is. Painful. Yeah.
Well, you gotta mix it in. You gotta mix in your serious stuff with your comedic stuff, unless you're going really, really full on straight comedy.
Yes. Not everything can be a flea in her ear sort of stuff here. So it's if you are a great comedy writer, you'll get the work and you'll be able to pull it off time and time again. But for like 99% of everyone else, pace yourself. You'll be able
That's
to get
even part of it.
results.
Even in stuff that's comedy movies or even fucking stand-up acts, like you have to have some amount of more serious stuff because the contrast is what makes it interesting.
Mm-hmm. What was the one song like Ann's Diner, whatever that one was? Where it's like a long story. The guy's,
Alice's Restaurant.
Alice's Restaurant. There we go. And it's like, yeah, there's a lot of silliness here, and it's kind of a thing there. But at one point it's like, yeah, and it's like, now we're going to talk about the draft, and
the whole song's about the draft.
Yeah, that's the actual point of the song. It's like, oh, everything leading up to that was just preamble.
If one person does it, they're crazy. If two people do it, it's a coincidence. If three people do it, it's a movement.
Alice's Restaurant is a good example of you got a pretty absurd sort of thing that you're experiencing here, but there's still underlying, deadly serious stuff going on here, so it's good to have that. I guess another sort of good example is the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, which I've spoken about. Especially with Gepwin a bit recently, and I'm not going to give any spoilers for the third volume there, but there's a lot of seriousness in that one, but the humor comes in at just the right time to keep it from being bleak. So it is a good sort of palate cleanser when you're like, wow, that was awful. So humor, use it intelligently, use it with intent.
Yeah, don't just bring on a weird, unfunny comedian and say, I don't know, do something.
Yeah, you just tell jokes. It'll be fine, right?
Yeah. And that's 90% of modern comedy, but
I guess
that's why I hate movies now.
Yeah, I guess there's I guess basically from the when the American Pie, the first one came out, I'm like, maybe I don't like comedies. Huh. I know it's sort of classic for a lot of folks, but yeah, I just couldn't get into it. I'm just like, this is just so annoying to me. Oh well. Anyway, that's all I had.
Mm-hmm. Now we have to try to be funny because it's time for the Galaxy's favorite game show.
Woo! Hey everybody, welcome to the Galaxy's favorite game show. We got lots of contestants, much more than usual today, and they've all been trying to compete for, what few points we got handing out. Actually, we got a lot of points handing out. Or maybe neither. This joke isn't working. Anyway, our first prize to hand out is the Assignment Death Prize, which goes to Riker. And not because, he's going to die necessarily, but, the death bit is, is you might have to kill somebody if you work on a Klingon ship, so, Assignment Death, I guess. What does he win, Gepwin?
Riker wins the other option that Worf probably should have thought of, which is whatever that Romeo and Juliet poison is. So you stab them and they go to sleep for a while. They have a lot of ways to incapacitate people that you could have, thought of and used.
Yeah, Pulaski, has her off-button hypo sprays, and you got, probably a baton of bap you upside the head. It's like, oh yes, I've given him a brain concussion that killed him instantly, and then he wakes up a few hours later. There's probably lots of options here in the future. It is the future, after all. Our second prize is the Endless War Prize, which goes to the Klingons, as they seem to always be ready to get into a fight and die pointlessly, as just sort of a general mindset, it seems. They're on a peaceful mission, as stated specifically in the episode, but, the moment there is a chance to get into a fight, they're all about that. So what do they win, Gepwin?
They win remote control AI ships and fun toys. Like, you could just play war games in space. You have the technology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I don't. Why? Why are you're all just sitting there going like, we used to fight. We used to be warriors.
Well, you could still fight. You just, it doesn't necessarily have to be actual people you're killing here. So, maybe pick up a hobby or something. Come on.
The Klingons are the reason that they wind up in a war at least once a generation in this thing.
Yes. It's like, oh yeah, the Klingons are angry again. Great. Our third and final prize is the incompetent guest star prize, which goes to Mendon for thinking he's all that, but actually being kind of bad at some very basic things in terms of, being an officer. Like the chain of command and not being kind of an ass. What does he win, Gepwin?
Mendon wins the entire string of Geostructure brothers to continue just being reoccurring characters. Like, he should have just been a main character, and it could have just been a whole bit. Every time another Benzite shows up, it's like, hey, it's Menton, it's Mondon, it's Morton.
Moxton, Mentok, and so on and so forth, until they run out of various M names that are vaguely alien-sounding. But that's all we got here today. Hope you guys enjoyed the Galaxy's Favorite Game Show, and when you're going out there into deep space, make sure to have a little humor. Because, not everyone appreciates the stereotype of the Starfleet officer who's strong-jawed and without joy in life and is only here to punch Klingons like Captain Picard. Wait, no. Captain Kirk. Also
They
Riker.
thought he had a sense of humor.
Yes.
They loved him.
Kirk did have a sense of humor. Maybe didn't get to show it off to Klingons as much, but, I guess Koloth saw some of it. Anyway.
Yeah. Kirk's sense of humor was going, ha ha ha, my doctor's racist.
Yes. So go ahead and take us away here before we get back into nostalgia for the original series a little too much here.
Thanks everyone for being here and joining us on this, the Galaxy's Favorite Game Show.
Woo!
We are going from strength to strength because this was one of my favorite episodes, and the next one is also everyone's favorite episode forever.
Yes. Yeah, the next episode is like one of those episodes that like people, they're like, the first season is like, guess I'll try the second, and then they get to this one and it's like, oh yeah, this is actually like some real like cool stuff going on here in terms of like thinking about problems, moral dilemmas, ethics, So yeah, this is like something to actually like really get into here. And so
which
Star Trek
unfortunately
fans.
is going to be really apt. Way too apt. I don't want to talk about how apt this episode is.
Yeah. So there's it's a data-centric episode, but various characters get involved, and we have a kind of intense guest star, and we're going to see someone disarmed.
Yeah.
In a very literal sense.
So this episode is basically the episode where we have a trial to decide what constitutes as human rights.
Yes. It would be nice
and
to
who gets them.
Yeah. Be nice to have as many people as possible, get them generally. Just maybe all of them, in fact. And, make sure that we're counting everyone who is a person as a long way.
Yeah, this is the episode that apparently everyone who wrote Star Trek Picard didn't watch.
Yeah. Other than to maybe skim some names from.
Yeah.
But, it's a good episode, and I look forward to talking about it.
Yeah, next time we are going to have the absolute super classic, you probably covered this in at least one college-level class, The Measure of a Man.
Next time on Watchers of Tomorrow, how big is Data? You have been listening to Watchers of Tomorrow, a podcast on science fiction media. Find and follow Watchers of Tomorrow on Podbean, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, Spreader, Digital Podcast, and perhaps many more to come. If you enjoy our podcast, make sure to subscribe for more. And where possible, make sure to rate your experience or leave us a review. You may find Gepwin on youtube.com/Gepwin and Twitter @Gepwin. You may find me, Dr. Isix, on youtube.com/Dr. Isix and Twitter @IsixLP. Music is Waveform and Mori's Principle, both by DRKRN. You can also check out the Watchers of Tomorrow Discord channel. Make sure to share the experience with your friends, family, enemies, and alien overlords. If you feel you are suffering from transporter syndrome, please be aware that the next time you step off the transporter, that you, that is now, no longer exists.